This episode is brought to you by Temptations Cat Treats. Your cat will come running for the perfectly irresistible Temptations Creamy Puree and Temptations Lickable Spoon Cat Treats. The best time to feed lickable cat treats to your cat is anytime. Feed by hand for a playful moment, in a bowl for a creamy treat, or as a topper to make mealtime fun. Visit TemptationsTreats.com to learn more.
This episode is brought to you by Shopify. Upgrade your business with Shopify, home of the #1 checkout on the planet. Shop Pay boosts conversions up to 50%, meaning fewer carts going abandoned and more sales going cha-ching. So if you're into growing your business, get a commerce platform that's ready to sell wherever your customers are. Visit Shopify.com to upgrade your selling today.
Welcome, my friends. It is Saturday morning. If you would like to be part of our Saturday morning vibe, 800-848-9222 is how you reach us, 800-848-9222. Plenty, of course, to discuss, plenty in the news. And this morning, today, there will be a discussion on pain. Pain. The word is being used in media stories. For instance, this morning, the New York Times has an article, Trump showed his pain point in his standoff with China. The Washington Post, another of the mainstream media beacons and pillars, Trump's historic China tariffs spread pain through U.S. and global economies. Tariff costs are already spreading across the United States. David Lynch wrote that one. So we will talk about the pain. And I must tell you up front that I believe that this is a total misreading, both of these, on what is happening with the tariffs. Tariffs are not the only thing in the news. So we will get to other matters as well. There's considerable, it looks like this deal that passed the House of Representatives requiring proof of citizenship to register to vote is still unleashing all kind of negative reactions throughout liberal and progressive America. I don't understand why. Well, yes, you do understand why, because it's there. It would require proof of citizenship, and that's the pain point for them. But every indication is, if you look at the press, this thing has a chance in the United States Senate. And I would just say that if it doesn't, that mark this one as a major campaign point that conservatives and Republicans should make in the midterm elections of 2028. Talk about pain. Bring some pain to Democrats on this. But let's begin this morning with this idea that Trump showed his pain point in a standoff with his adversaries in China. President Trump, says New York Times, didn't seem to mind his worldwide tariffs set off stock market sell-offs, wiped out trillions of dollars in wealth. Be cool, he told Americans. Then he blinked on Wednesday afternoon in the face of financial turmoil, particularly a rapid rise in government bond yields that could shake the dominant position of the dollar and the foundation of U.S. economy. By pausing some tariffs for dozens of countries for 90 days, he also gave away something to his main rival, the Chinese leader Xi Jinping, with whom he is engaged in a game of chicken that risks decoupling the world's two biggest economies and turning the global economic order upside down. Mr. Xi learned that his adversary had a pain point. As reckless and ruthless as Mr. Trump may seem to some parts of the world, Mr. Xi in China, he's squaring off with a leader of a party, state, that have a long history of single-minded pursuit of policies, even when they resulted in economic and human catastrophe. Among Chinese, a consensus among both Beijing's critics and its supporters is that the endgame may come down to which leader will be able to make people endure misery in the name of national interest. The New York Times goes on to give us Mr. Xi's history. Mr. Xi, who some Chinese view as Mao Zedong's successor to the mantle, likes talking about the benefits of withstanding hardship. Born in a revolutionary family, Xi experienced political turmoil, adversity at a young age. His father, a vice premier, was purged when Xi was 9 years old. During the Cultural Revolution, Xi's father was severely persecuted. The son, not yet 16, had to move to a village deep in Losas Plateau and work as a farmer. The 7 tough years I spent working in the countryside were the greatest test for me, he's quoted as saying. Whenever I encountered difficulties later on, I would think of how even under such harsh conditions back then, I was able to get things done. So what they're doing now is putting up Xi as the strong leader, the man that can endure it. And Donald Trump, of course, blinks when the first sign of pain comes around. And this is utter nonsense. Utter nonsense. Later on in their lengthy article, they say Mr. Xi does have a pain point on the economy. He can't let things get so bad that it jeopardizes the legitimacy of the party's rule. Nationwide protest in 2022 helped bring the zero COVID to an end. Tariffs threaten China's exports, which are driving the country's economy. On Friday, Xi has made his first public comments. China's development has always relied on self-reliance and hard work, never on the charity of others, and never fearing any unjust oppression, he said. Well, that's all well and good as far as remarks go, but guess what? Xi's got problems. And those problems lie in that little paragraph that the Washington Post put. Oh, yeah, the Chinese have some issues. Their economy relies on exports. The entire eastern seaboard of China is the manufacturing there supplies the United States and the world. If they don't have anywhere to sell it to, there's plenty of pain for the Chinese government, because it won't be long before the citizenry of China, where, by the way, in spite of all of their advances, and they have made dramatic advances thanks to Bill Clinton, thanks to their unfair practices, 600 million Chinese, the New York Times notes, take home less than $140 a month. They have minimum social benefits. So, let's talk for a minute about pain. Number one, this is a complete misreading of what has happened here. Trump did not blink. What Donald Trump did was isolate China. Princess Di gave a remarkable analysis. She was on with us for an hour last week. I can't wait to hear from Princess Di this week. She gave a remarkable analysis on this situation. And one of the things she pointed out, and it is true, is that China has been isolated now. You have other nations in the world. Many of them are making their deals right now with America, thanks to these tariffs. And Trump lifted the global reciprocity tariffs so that those deals could be made. And what do those deals that are being made do? They isolate China. There was a story this week that the New York Times, I don't believe, acknowledges at all, where they had tried to cozy up to Australia so that they could have a joint response to the United States. Australia said, hell no, we're not doing that with you. We don't want you as the trading partner. And why don't nations want to deal with China? Because China cheats. Because China lies. There was one example that I played on the weekday show, and I'm going to play it again. That is Rick Scott. He was on with Kevin O'Leary. And they were talking about a situation And this is important stuff. And this is just one. We could spend many shows talking about the way that the Chinese conduct business. But just listen to this from Senator Rick Scott speaking with Kevin O'Leary.
The whole idea of today's conversation was just to get to a reciprocal playing field, a even playing field.
So, Mr. O'Leary, what if there was a company called WeatherTech? You know, and they produce really nice mats for their car.
I have them in my F-150.
And they woke up one day and they looked on Alibaba and they saw that their products were being sold on Alibaba. And they looked at their shipping, and they never had done any business with Alibaba. And they looked just like the mats that they produced in Illinois, and they even had their name on it, right? What could they do to stop this theft of their product? And they got nothing for it. What would be their recourse right now?
There is nothing they can do. You have just told the story of 1 million small businesses in America over the last 20 years. They innovate, they create, they're entrepreneurs, they prove their product in the American consumer market at around 5 million in sales. They're knocked off. By whom? China. Very often, the same plants that ran the molds under a relationship they had with the company. A lot of companies went to China 20 years ago, 10 years ago, and put their molds there. And during the day, the company would run the WeatherTech mat, in this example, here theoretically. And then at night, they'd run the knockoff mat. And they would bring it into the market, let me guess, 30% off retail of WeatherTech. And I've seen this happen countless times. And in some cases where the company's very small, they go out of business. And nobody hears that tree falling in the forest. It happens thousands of times. There's such an immense opportunity here to enforce existing laws. But really, at the end of the day, the reason that behemoth company couldn't do anything about it, they have no access to the Chinese courts. They can't resolve the complaint through litigation, as we do here. So my recommendation is, look, if you're a Chinese company and you want to use our courts to litigate your complaint, sorry. Not until you open yours. We'd love to work with you, but unless it's a reciprocal play, the whole idea of today's conversation was just to get to a reciprocal playing field, a even playing field. American companies have always been very competitive anywhere on earth when given a chance on a transparent and competitive playing field. That's not the case in China. We're all saying.
And that, my friends, is why we have to continue doing what we're doing. 20 years of this. It's been more than 20 years. This is since the Chinese entry into the World Trade Organization. They have never played fair. They have never traded fair with the United States. They have always used the relationship of trade to weaponize the communist government against the United States of America. And Donald Trump is the only president that we have had that is actually taking the bull by the horn here and fighting them back dollar for dollar with these tariffs and demanding that China either play fair in the marketplace or suffer the consequences. And here you have the New York Times trying to make President Xi as some hero and Donald Trump a weakling? No, not real. Oh, I believe I can bend over in a jail cell. Yeah, the year was 1997. Back then, he believed he can fly. Now he believes he can bend over and touch the floor, pick up the soap, he ain't spreading wings. It's R. Kelly, remembering when this was the big deal song, 1997, on this day. James Golden and Snerdley with you. Keep it right here, 800-848-9222. Tomorrow is the anniversary of Benny and the Jets reaching the number one position in U.S. single charts back in 1974. It was Elton John's second U.S. number one single. One of his great, great songs. Elton John, Benny and the Jets. Now, Rick Scott also brought something else to mind, and this is just listen. This is Senator Rick Scott in a grocery store.
Is garlic dangerous? Well, maybe. You see, Communist China produces the majority of the world's garlic. But what Communist China doesn't tell you is exactly how they're producing it. Now, we already know that Communist China doesn't play by our rules or have Americans' best interest in mind. Communist China has a proven track record of producing unsafe goods. We can't trust its food to be safe for our families. This is especially true for garlic grown in Communist China. There are reports that China lied on alleged disgusting practices that Communist China uses to grow garlic, then export it to the United States. Reports indicate that Chinese garlic is grown using raw sewage, possibly including human feces, and that the garlic is then bleached to make it appear whiter and cleaner to the eye after its growth in unsanitary conditions. It's also processed using slave labor. Communist China uses slave labor, and these poor people are forced to peel so much garlic that their fingernails literally fall off. So they have to use their teeth to get the job done. It's horrific. And it means that Chinese sewage garlic should be unacceptable for human consumption. Would you knowingly feed this to your kids? Of course not. And what's frightening is that the United States does not inspect and insure the vast majority of imported Chinese sewage garlic is safe and up to our standards. And this is something we eat, cook with, feed our families and kids. We shouldn't have any doubt in our minds that when we go to the grocery store and pick up garlic, that it's safe and up to our standards. We have to get to the bottom of this. When our health, safety, and well-being is at risk, we have to take this seriously. Every single time we see something labeled made in China, we need to question whether it's safe for our families. That's why I asked the Commerce Department to investigate.
That's enough of that. You got the point. We got the point. Look, it's not just the garlic. There is a, yes?
The whiter the garlic, the more the feces. Is that what he said?
Pretty much. They're growing garlic in human waste, raw sewage. They send it here. Why are they doing it? It's not just the economics. The Chinese have been at war with America. They are not our adversaries. They have been trying to subtly destroy this nation for decades. It's COVID. It's the products that they send here. There's a 9-minute piece. I don't have time to play it on this show about a blood thinner that they have been sending here that's made with artificial, and they patent it. It is it is unsafe. There's a story out of one of the major hospitals where a healthy guy goes in, treated with this blood thinner, dies a horrible death. It's the sheetrock. It's all of it. And the New York Times is talking about Trump blinked. Oh, no, my friends. There's a lot going on here. 800-848-9222 is how you reach us. Bo Snerdley. It's the Saturday Morning Vibe. We will continue. Stay right here.
They have no interest in protecting our intellectual property. We had a situation on our farm and other farms throughout the Midwest where we were producing seeds, in our case for Bayer, Chinese nationals that were coming out at night, digging up the pure parent lines of the seed that we was producing on our farm, only to be taken to Chicago O'Hare, put in a warehouse, and then shipped back to China. They think that's perfectly fine. Well, it's not fine. There's hundreds of millions of dollars going to research to develop these new products and then to produce and take it to the marketplace, but yet the Chinese captured that, the value of that, and stole it from the United States.
Again, this is what happens. Birthday today, multi-instrumentalist Guy Berryman from Coldplay. He's a Scot, Scottish musician. Guy Berryman, happy birthday. Coldplay. Worldwide #1 album back in 2005, X and Y. So many hits. Great band. Coldplay, James Golden, Saturday Morning Vibe. Now that little bit we played right before the bumper, look, you have American farmers on their farms, growing seeds, Chinese nationals in this country stealing them in the dead of night, coming on, stealing the parent seeds, shipping them back to China. What do? Nothing. We have no recourses in China's court. And supposedly, Donald Trump is weak because he blinked? Oh, this is such utter nonsense. Then you have the fear factor, like you're seeing it today in the Washington Post. Trump's historic China tariffs spread pain through the U.S. and global economies. Look, I understand that and I am not making light of the fact that disruption causes pain. But then you listen to what some of these liberal guys say. Chris Matthews had a meltdown. About what? And it wasn't China. It was Canada. Listen to Chris Matthews' meltdown from earlier in the week, complaining about our relationship and the tariffs that have gone into effect with Canada and lumber. It's hysterical what this guy and what others are doing in response to a change. We'll play that later. I only call for it. Anyway, but you've got to do that. You've got to hear that. And we will have that for you later, along with some of the other upset. Trump's historic China tariffs sped pain through the U.S. and global economies. President Donald Trump's rapid-fire trade war has set in motion a commercial rupture without precedent, which is rippling through the global economy in unpredictable and costly ways. The triple-digit taxes that the president has imposed on Chinese products and China's retaliatory measures are expected to shrink trade between the world's two largest economies from a recent annual peak of nearly $700 billion to almost nothing. After more than a quarter century of a love-hate relationship, the United States and China are on the verge of a commercial divorce. Yet, some coveted Chinese projects will continue finding their way to American consumers via other nations, which is what they were counting on, which is why what Donald Trump did by blanketing many of the developed nations in the world with these tariffs to make sure to isolate China worked. Yet some of these Chinese products will continue finding their way to American customers via other nations that face lower U.S. trade barriers. Even as direct trade shrivels, the U.S. will remain dependent on Chinese components that are inside products made in countries such as Mexico, Thailand, or Vietnam. Everything that Donald Trump is doing here is ultimately for the benefit of the United States of America. Everything. And it is from this dependence that we have on other nations. You know, Sir Michael Singleton the other day, in 14 seconds, pointed out the weakness of this. He just said, suppose we go into a conflict with China, and China just puts a total embargo on everything they send to the United States. What happens then? We are hosed, my friends, because not a lot of our manufacturing is dependent, as just said, on Chinese components, including medicines, in some cases which are faulty, which are killing American citizens, including components in our weaponry. And yet we are dependent on China, given their attitude, their long-term attitude toward the United States, which is to treat us in a horrible fashion, not to let American businesses really compete there, steal from Americans, steal our intellectual property, put American companies out of business for the sake of using their slave labor markets, which liberals at one point used to talk about human rights. You don't hear them talking about that in relation to China anymore. Everything that is happening here benefits the United States of America. But you would not know that if you're looking at the mainstream press. China's retaliation for Trump's tariffs, Washington Post, features its own levies of 125%, will make itself felt on American farm and businesses. Guess what? They will suffer much worse. It is not a level playing field. We do 1/5 of the business that is done in trade. Only 1/5 of that is from exports into China. 4/5 of all the trades that is done between China and the United States is done one-sided, from China shipping things over here and then using their unfair practices to hurt Americans. Unfair practices? Yes, like sending over goods that are defective, like the big sheetrock scandal years ago, like the milk products that were coming in contaminated, not just into China, but worldwide. Like medicines that come in, including medicines that are used in emergency medical procedures that are defective, that kill American citizens who have no recourse because they cannot go to China and sue China for sending over defective goods. And America's been sitting back taking this. And we don't have a press in America that will really feature these things and talk about it. Instead, they talk about their hatred for Donald Trump. Oh, Trump is a weakling. Oh, Trump blinked. Trump did this. This is utter nonsense. Trump is fighting a fight that no other American president had the onions to fight with China. None of them had the guts to take China on. They were too fearful of what is going on now, which is, yes, there is disruption. Yes, there are American companies now, those that do trade with China, who are feeling a little bit of discomfort right now. But the long-term objective is to not only restore the American economy, the long-term objective here is to alter the relationship with China, where China has been using trade as a de facto war weapon against the American people. And instead of a media that actually can, number one, even understand what is at risk here for America, what you have is everything through the prism of TDS. Trump is reckless. If he's not reckless, then Trump planned this so he and his Republicans can use a corrupt mechanism to get wealthy. That's what else is going on with Democrats today. Nowhere do these people acknowledge what China has been to the world. A worldwide bully as they seek dominance over the economic system of the entire world. They have already stated they want to dethrone the dollar and weaken the United States as a global economic power. They've already stated that they don't care about the interest of American citizens. And how have they stated that? By unleashing COVID on America and the world. You have had China that acted, let's just call it what it is, folks. They released a biological weapon on the world that cost millions of people their health and in many cases their lives. And what has been the accountability for China releasing a weapon upon the world? None. We're just supposed to go along, bend over, and take this shoddy trade deal that they've been inflicting on the world and just let China continue to dominate. Donald Trump is standing up against all of this. And what do you get from the mainstream press? They don't even acknowledge that COVID was a biological weapon. And it was. They don't even acknowledge that the United States helped them come up with this biological weapon through gain-of-function research, which we now know is true. No one has ever been held accountable for it. This stuff killed millions of people, put millions of Americans out of work and in hardship. And there's in any of these stories about the pain, there's not one reference to the pain that was caused by China to the United States, to the entire world on COVID. Not one reference to it. What their emphasis is, there are people hurting in the United States because of Trump. Trump is causing pain. Trump is trying to actually clean it up. This pain that has been inflicted on the world from China for decades. Donald Trump is finally addressing it. We have a president that is finally willing to stand up to communist China, and what we get from the mainstream press in this country is pure cowardice. James Golden, Snerdley. We're going to do this. You remember this, right? Tomorrow is the birthday of Lou Bega. In 1999, this one broke and broke big. Mambo, number 5. James Golden, Snerdley, 800-848-9222. Keep it right here.
I swear to God, I hate you if you voted for Donald Trump. You were warned repeatedly, over and over again, do not vote for him. He doesn't know what he's doing. He doesn't care to know what he's doing. And now we're finding out that they are sending innocent men to El Salvador. Men with protective orders in place. They are just ignoring the judge's orders. They're sending innocent men to this hellscape of a prison in El Salvador, and we can't get them back. You are a Republican. This is your fault. You did this. You fix it. How dare you call yourself an American? How dare you call yourself a patriot?
I'm a patriot.
You're sick. Your entire movement is based on nothing but nihilism and destruction and hatred and lies. May you suffer. May you burn in hell for this, Trump supporters.
Oh, what's up to burn in hell? The loving left. Yeah. Help is right. Help. These liberals are losing their minds. Tomorrow's the anniversary when the Beatles recorded this one at Abbey Road Studios in London. John, speaking of the song in an interview in 1980, he said, the whole Beatles thing was just beyond comprehension. I was subconsciously crying out for help. Help. Wow, pretty profound from that perspective, right? Yeah, okay, good. John Lennon helped the Beatles, remembering that James Golden Snerdley here. You know what I got to do real quick? We have Lindsay Radabali coming up. I love it. I got to... There are things that are floating around social media. I found one, and my niece is like, are you only just now seeing this? This is the loins, the loins thing. You have that, Carlos? There's look, I'm a vegetarian. Many of you know that. I don't eat meat, but I know what cuts of meat are, pork loins. And this one so there's a package in the grocery store, pork loins. And this one apparently has been floating around the social media for quite some time.
I'm really about to show y'all why we need to move out of America. Look at this. They're selling lion chops. They're taking exotic animals and cutting them up and putting them in our local grocery stores.
Also, that's just one. Also, did you know that good morning is racist? Which one is that? Yes. Good morning. You have that ready? Folks, I have to warn you. Public schools. That's all I'll say. Public schools. Good morning is, saying good morning to somebody is, I don't know how much of this we'll be able to get to, but we'll do as much as we can.
My guy. Let's talk about where the word good morning originated from.
Okay, let's do it.
Morning.
It's 2 words, by the way.
All right, so during slavery times, when the women used to mourn about their child being taken away and sold to a different slave master, or if one of the family members did something that resulted into them getting whipped or killed, most of these things used to happen in the evening time when a child was sold off or somebody was getting whipped for something. In the evening time? The black women used to cry all night behind it. Not even just the women, the black people in general, all the black slaves, male or female. When something happened to a family member or a close friend or anything, they used to cry all night behind it. All night. When the slaves used to cry about what happened all night long, the white slave masters, the oppressors, will wake up in the morning time and they'll tell the slaves, did you have a good morning? Basically, did you have a good cry out? Did you do enough crying last night because of what happened to their family member a day prior? So the white oppressors came up with good morning as a mockery towards black people during the slavery time when they used to cry and mourn and grieve over what happened to somebody when they was whipped or killed or taken off to another plantation. So it was their way to make fun of the black slaves crying that night prior. So they would ask them, did you have a good morning? Did you have a good cry? And they would laugh about it. So that was their way of being funny towards the black slaves when they would cry all night about somebody that was hung, somebody that was killed, that was their way to make fun of them. Y'all know what mourning mean. All they did was take the U off of it, so nobody would think about what it really originated from. It was really a mockery towards black slaves and them making fun of what they did to their people when someone was hung, killed, or sold off to a different plantation. So that was their way of being funny. Did you have a good morning? Did you have a good cry about that person's death? Did you have a good cry about your daughter being taken away from you and sold off somewhere else? Did you have a good cry of your brother being hung yesterday? That was their way of being funny. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, everybody. I hope you're having a wonderful morning. Hour number uno in the can, hour number duo coming up. Whatever you do, do not go away. We'll be right back. The Saturday Morning Vibe continues. Welcome, my friends, to hour number duo of the Saturday Morning Vibe. Good morning. Sorry to be racist. Apparently, good morning is a racist terminology. Now, America's public schools. Yes, you might get tooken by evil forces.
This country was built on a distinctly American work ethic. But today, work is in trouble. We've outsourced most of our manufacturing to other countries. And with that, we sent away good jobs and diminished our capability to make things. American Giant is a clothing company that's pushing back against this tide. They make a variety of high-quality clothing and activewear, like sweatshirts, jeans, dresses, jackets, and so much more. All made right here in the USA, from growing the cotton to adding the final touches. So when you buy American Giant, you create jobs for seamsters, cutters, and factory workers in towns and cities across the United States. And it's about more than an income. Jobs bring pride, purpose. They stitch people together. If all that sounds good to you, visit American-Giant.com and get 20% off your first order when you use code STAPLE20 at checkout. That's 20% off your first order at American-Giant.com with promo code STAPLE20.
Anyway, my friends, hour number duo underway. In hour number trio later today, Princess Diana will join us. Rhonda Schrock, America's small caffeinated mom, has a week off. Busy out there in America's heartland. Right now, though, however, ladies and gentlemen, we have the pleasure of checking in with Red Apple Media Anchor Supremo. That would be our very own Lizzie Radabali, who is the advocate for America's downtrodden, oppressed workers. And they're further downtrodden this week. We got news this week. You know the culprit. CEO of J.P. Morgan, Jamie Dimon, is back at it. Lizzie, good morning. It's a racist term, but good morning anyway.
Good morning, Bo. How are you? The workers, we are beaten, battered, but not broken. We are not broken. We will come back.
Lizzie, I got when it was too late to come in today. I got a guy. Maybe I'll send it to you. I'll send you. Maybe we can talk about this one next week. I got a guy that's whining about he has to work an 25-hour week. But we'll get to that later.
I
wish. Jamie Dimon's back at it again.
Yes, my favorite poster boy for the, that tax bracket that I just love so much. Jamie Dimon, he doesn't want people wasting time at meetings anymore. And wasting time, what do you do when you waste time? You scroll. You're scrolling. You're scrolling through emails, texts. He wants people to stop reading texts and emails because he says it's disrespectful. Now,
yes. So he's banning people looking at their phones or whatever, their devices, reading their text messages, emails during the meetings. It wastes time, he says. It's disrespectful to those that are running the meeting. Takes away. He wants 100% of the attention paid to what the topic is of the meeting.
Now, I just have to say, most work meetings are completely pointless. They are completely pointless and could be summarized in an email. I don't understand why certain things have to be, that they'll prepare like a PowerPoint and it's like you're sitting through a middle school presentation again. The person is fumbling over their words saying, Q1 is, look here, the numbers show that we are in the green. Nobody, that could have been an email. Nobody actually cares. So why not scroll? Why not answer some emails? Because then I want to point out that he also says that you should be able to answer emails immediately. You shouldn't have to reread them. You should address them immediately. So it's like he wants you to immediately address these emails, but also, no, you're not allowed to look at your emails.
Not during... When he calls a meeting of the troops, the meetings have specific agendas. Most companies do this, Lizzie, and they want people's attention for the topic at hand on the email. Not busy answering their personal email, answering their notifications about whatever. Pay attention to the stuff in the meeting. That's not
I don't know.
Asking too much, is it?
I don't think it's asking. I don't think it's asking a lot. I think it is asking a lot for your employees to drop everything they're doing and do this meeting. And like I said, sometimes they're just pointless. Sometimes you're just sitting there twiddling your thumbs. It doesn't matter if you're listening or not because sometimes they just actually send an email recapping the meeting anyway. So it's the whole meeting is summarized in an email. This all could have been an email. That meeting was a waste of time. I would argue the meeting is a waste of time. And that's disrespectful. Asking your workers to, stop their actual tasks and just talk shop for a bit. Who cares? We are transitioning to the digital age. People have to work efficiently. People have to get the most bang for their buck. Especially the workers. The workers, more and more tasks get piled onto you every single day as a worker. So you gotta make the seconds count. So I don't fault workers for, checking on their correspondence during meetings. I've been in plenty of meetings where, the whole crew, the whole team, all the higher ups were on their phones. So it's it's a two-way street. Respect is a two-way street.
Okay, Lizzie. Meanwhile, let's check in over at the UK. I find this interesting. Over in the United Kingdom, there's a murder this sounds like a movie theme. I've seen this movie.
Yeah, there's actually, it actually reminded me of a show. I don't know if you've heard of this show, Black Mirror. Have you heard of that show?
Yeah, I've heard of Black Mirror.
Yeah. Black Mirror, it focuses on technology and the dangers of technology and certain things like that. And this sounds exactly like a Black Mirror episode. In the UK, they have developed an algorithm that helps predict who might end up being a murderer.
Isn't that's digital profiling, isn't it?
1,000%. And also you have to ask the question, are you setting these people up to, do some self-fulfilling prophecy if they do end up on the list? Would they be more motivated to become killers if they get
Can I just ask you, let me just ask you a question.
Yeah.
Haven't you come across in your tender young life, you're still very young, thankfully for you, it goes quickly, enjoy all of it. Haven't you come across people and you can see from the time that they're a kid that this kid's going to end up in a prison somewhere?
I've met some people who are just, their vibes were off. Their vibes were way off.
Yeah.
And they gave me the creeps. They gave me, the heebie-jeebies.
You get the little kids that go around killing animals and doing things. You just know they're not headed for a good place.
Yeah, well, killing animals as children, that's like an early sign that you could become a serial killer. So even bigger deal than, just a run-of-the-mill murderer, one-and-done killer type deal. But the kids who, are killing these animals are, those people that you meet that give you the creeps. I believe in the art of redemption. I believe in that every human soul can be salvaged. I really do think that.
You do think that, do you?
I do. I believe in human dignity. I know that's controversial. Human dignity.
What is there's nothing controversial about dignity.
I don't know.
But Lizzie, can we just be real? There are some kids that are not going to be saved. And not just kids. There are some people you just know. Look, Lizzie, there's this thing in the world. Lizzie, there's this thing in the world called evil, and some people are it.
Yeah, I don't think people are evil. I think evil lives within people, and that could be killed just as easy as human life can. I think the evil within people can be.
Lizzie, there are some people who are evil.
See, I just disagree. I think that I really do think that there's something. Especially beforehand, like, this is a murder prediction tool. This isn't like a murder analysis tool of, looking at different murderers.
We're predicting who's going to be a murderer.
This is predicting who's going to be a murderer. So, I just think that those people, there is room for redemption. There is room for reconciliation. They can be saved. They can be, I think, with proper care, with proper support system, a lot of, security. I think they can be helped. I think they can be saved, and I think they could change their own fate.
Okay. Let's see how accurate this murder prediction tool is over the decades. Maybe at some point, 10, 20 years from now, you'll be doing a story somewhere, and you'll just say, I remember when this prediction tool was introduced, and these are the results. Let's see. Now, in Missouri, I cannot believe this story. Lizzie, really?
Well,
tell us.
So, I think you're talking about the foster mom in Missouri, because we actually have 2 stories from Missouri today.
Well, yes, I'm talking about the foster mom in Missouri.
Yes, so cops are looking into this foster mom who is trying. Apparently, she's accused of trading one of her foster kids, for a monkey in order to, beef up her exotic animal collection.
And you want to tell me that there's not evil in the world?
I mean, once again,
you want to tell me that there's some people who are not just evil?
I don't think so. I mean, this woman, I just think she's misguided. I think she's a little, she's got to get her priorities in check. I mean, she's a foster mom, so I think that's a good quality. She's a foster mom, like she's taken in several kids who don't have anywhere else to go, who are, would have been
and she is accused of perhaps trading a kid for a monkey.
Yes. And she's a lover of animals. Don't we all love animal lovers? She takes care of monkeys.
She is accused of trading a foster human being child in for a monkey so that she can boost her exotic animal collection.
Yeah, and I mean, I will say, I think people who collect animals, exotic animals specifically, I do think that is pretty unethical. I don't think it's necessarily evil, because a lot of these people, they do it with pure intentions. They really love these animals, especially monkeys. There was actually a show not so long ago called Chimp Crazy that focused on this one woman who had a collection, a swath of monkeys, and she was kind of targeted by wildlife rescue teams who cleared out her collection, of course. So, people come to this with pure intentions, good heart. They want to help these monkeys. They care about the monkeys. But then, that kind of taints their worldview, and now she's trading in children for this monkey. I mean, she's got to get her priorities in check. I don't think she's evil. I don't think she's evil for that. I do think she's a little bit, wrong. She's wrong. She's point blank wrong.
Lizzie. You have a tender heart, Lizzie. That's all I'll say about it.
I do.
You do. You have a tender heart. And
Thank you.
Yes. We'll have to hold on to the Croc story till next week. It's another Missouri story, folks. Lizzie, thank you so much. Always a pleasure. Lizzie, I'm sorry to tell you, with my tender-hearted Lizzie, I love you so much, but I'm going to tell you something, Lizzie. There is evil in the world. There are some people that are just evil.
And I cast it out of them. I cast it out of them. Amen.
If you could. Amen. James Golan, thank you, Lizzie.
Thank you, Bo.
The Saturday morning, racist word, vibe continues. What, Carlos? Why are you playing this?
This is American pianist, keyboardist, bandleader, composer Herbie Hancock, who had the 1983 UK number 8 rocket, which we are hearing at the moment. I had no idea that was him. I've heard this song so many times.
You didn't know this was Herbie Hancock? I've been playing Herbie Hancock this week. Herbie is one of the giants in the music industry. Herbie, of course, I went all the way back and listened to Maiden Voyage, which you have probably never heard of. Herbie Hancock, birthday, one of the greats in American history, the history of music. Celebrating Herbie Hancock on our Saturday morning vibe. James Golan and Snerdley, keep it here. Do not go away.
Just when you think things can't go any worse, we go from insane to bat insane with this whole economic collapse deal, right? So iPhones are going to cost $2,000. Apparently, we're doing 104% tariffs now on China, which is insane, and it's trickled all the way down now to even the most minute parts of our economy that is responsible, that makes all of the yardsticks that we use in this country. Like I said, we're not going to make these yardsticks any longer.
Yeah. America can't make yardsticks anymore. Yardsticks. We can't make yardsticks. And we're afraid the Chinese are going to deprive us of yardsticks, according to leftists. Tomorrow is the anniversary of Bob Marley and the Wailers releasing their first album on Island Records. It was Catch a Fire. And, of course, that began a career for Bob Marley that exploded, and the Wailers, and reggae exploded throughout the world. Bob Marley and the Wailers on the Saturday morning vibe. This is one of my favorites of Marley. Not from the Catch a Fire album, but Could You Be Loved and Be Loved? James Golan and Snerdley with you, Saturday morning vibe. Okay, so in some other news, Princess Diana's going to talk about this Whitmer thing. I am so glad I have that story, but I'm going to move that aside and hear what Princess Diana has to say about it. The House of Representatives has, as you know, passed the SAVE Act, requiring proof of citizenship to register to vote. Liberals are having a cow. Of course, there is a talking point narrative that has spread, and you have we played a lot of it during the week, ranting that women will no longer be able to vote in America if they've married and had a hyphenated name, would change their name. They can't do it because they don't have documentation, and wham, 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 wham. It goes on and on. The bill passed 220 votes to 208 opposed, that only citizens should be allowed to vote. Non-citizens are already prohibited from voting in federal and state elections, though some cities and localities allow non-citizens to vote in some local, it doesn't in local elections. That's what it says. And I believe it's an AP version of the story. Look, we know that illegal immigrants have been granted benefits, and these guys in the mainstream press just ignore inconvenient facts that they don't want to deal with. And some of them have voted in other elections. We know that. Chuck U. Schumer, has posted on Thursday that the bill is dead on arrival in the Senate. The Democrats in the Senate are not going to allow a bill to pass that demands that only United States citizens are allowed to vote in federal elections. You know what? You have 1/3 of the Senate up this year. You have a lot of Democrat Senate seats up. This should be made into a huge issue in 2028. And I'm sorry, in the midterm elections. I'm getting ahead of myself. Not the 2028 elections, the 26 elections. And then there are those on the left, the Brennan Center for Justice at NYU School of Law. The House just passed one of the worst pieces of voting legislation in American history. Would put voting out of reach for millions of Americans. 21 million Americans, they say, don't have the right documents. Folks, really? Then why don't you get them the documents? This has been going on for decades. James Golden, Snerdley, more coming up. Do not dare go away. Keep it right here. My friends, on Protecting Your Future today, I want to do something very different. Usually we talk about things in the economy. For instance, what gold right now has been just doing amazing as people are seeing it as a hedge against the uncertainty in the markets. We also talk about other financial trends, financial matters, what you can do, how to protect yourself. I want to take a very different track this week for Protecting Your Future and talk about mindset. Mindset. And I want to also be very clear that I am not mocking or saying anything negative about what you're about to hear. I think it's, in a way, tragic, but I think it has become all too common in the United States of America. Listen to this, and you will have your own thoughts, undoubtedly. It is a young woman who's losing benefits. And let's just listen to her story.
I got a letter in the mail yesterday that told me that my house is defunded and they can't help me with any of my bills anymore, including electric and gas. And if I were to move, they couldn't help me move anymore. So it's super cool as a single mom that literally can't work a ton because I have my son. So that's sick. And then my son's in early intervention, and yesterday they came and they told me they can't help me with gas cards anymore, which put gas in my car so that way I could take my son to appointments and play groups and literally like the grocery store. My phone shuts off tomorrow, my internet's off, I can't pay my electric, and then they just defunded all of that stuff, and now I don't get help with anything. So what am I supposed to do? My son doesn't qualify for any daycare. He doesn't start preschool till September. I work 2 days a week because that's when I have a babysitter. And those 2 days are like enough to buy. I just don't get how people are doing it by themselves. I don't. And then how are you going to give me a little bit of help? And then you're like, oh, by the way, one day we're just going to send a letter and we're going to be like, we can't do that anymore. We can't help you. My income hasn't changed. The help I have hasn't changed. But you guys can just take that away from me. Cool. Thank you. Because I wouldn't have liked to get on my feet or, have my life together at some point.
I was kind of stunned when I first saw the video of this woman posted on social media, basically saying that she's being deprived of all the benefits. She didn't identify which state that she lives in that has declined the benefits. But, nonetheless, she obviously is very upset. And then it dawned on me a few things. Number one, in this entire discussion, not once did she mention the child's father. Not once. Not once. She is totally dependent, or was totally dependent, on the largesse of government programs. And one day, the government programs ran out of money or, for some reason, decided that they are scaling back. Now, I don't know the specifics, as I said, but I do know the mindset that has grown in America. And again, I want to be very, very clear. I'm not mocking this woman. I am not in any way, by bringing this forward to your attention, trying to judge her in a very harsh way at all. But I just want to use this as a point. We talk about protecting the future of this country. Ever since the New Deal, even before that actually, but the New Deal in earnest, this nation has been evolving into a nation where dependence on oneself has been minimized, and dependence on everybody else, meaning the government, collecting the money of everyone else, collecting the labor, which is what money is, represented in people's labor, people's work, where the labor is everybody else, has been turned to help people who make choices that put them in the situations that they find themselves in. And again, I'm not trying to be judgmental here. I'm just trying to be objective. Let me put it like this. When many of us were young, our parents taught us a few things, and some of them were centered in morality lessons that came from the wisdom of mankind collectively, as long as there has been mankind. What is that wisdom? You don't have sexual relationships until you are at a point where you get married. That was the old school biblical, if you want to go there, injunction. Here's how to have a strong and healthy society. You don't have sex out of wedlock. Now that, of course, the sexual revolution took care of that. That's gone. Period. That's not coming back, by the way, at least in the foreseeable future. But that was what society used to imprint upon the generations. You control your own sexuality by being responsible for it until you have a mate that is suitable of doing what? Getting married to you. And that way, a family has a fighting chance to deal with the obstacles that life puts in your way. Those days are gone. It's a free-for-all. So now you have this woman, and many women like this, who are saying, I'm a single mom. We glorified single moms in America. Many of you are too young, don't even remember Murphy Brown. Don't even remember the debates that were happening in this country when Dan Quayle, vice president, said, you know what? Shows that glorify the life of the single mom are not helpful. He was raked over the coals, made to be almost a pariah for having that point of view. Well, guess what we have learned? In many cases in America, we have women, such as the woman that we heard from today. Again, I'm not trying to judge her personally, not interested in judging her personally, don't know the specifics of her life. Maybe she had a man that, who knows, could have passed away. Anything could have happened. I don't know, and I'm not trying to judge her. But I am saying that as a society, liberals told us that being a single mom was something that should be glorified. And guess what? It is a tough life. Any single mom will tell you how tough it is to try to do everything that you have to do for a child, to raise that child properly, and at the same time provide from that child. So who's supposed to step in? Well, liberals believe the government is supposed to step in. But guess what the government is? The government is not a faithful partner, because it's relying on what? Other people's money. What the American mindset used to be was one of rugged individualism. I can take care of myself. I will do what's necessary to take care of myself, to take care of my family. And that family very often was back when we used to promote the idea of a healthy two-parent family as being the best option. And why is that? It's not an American thing. It's a humanity thing. Since mankind walked the face of the earth, the most successful ways for mankind to thrive are known. If possible, and sometimes they're not, we all know that. If possible, two parents raising the offspring, if possible. Again, sometimes it's not possible, I know that. If possible, you have that. Gives the kids the best chance to stay out of poverty. We also used to promote the idea that people should be self-sufficient as much as they possibly can and not dependent upon the government for their sustenance. If you want to protect your future, and we want to protect the future of the United States of America, to some degree, folks, that has to return. The idea that we should strive to be self-sufficient without needing government assistance. That we should, I'm not saying, I understand how deep the web is now. This web wasn't that deep. In fact, during the early part of my life as a child, and I clearly remember this, and many of you might too, the idea of government assistance had a stigma attached to it. It's like people did not want government assistance because it was seen as not healthy, not helpful, something that you only should do in the very last resort, and even then there was a stigma attached to it. But the idea of self-reliance, as much as humanly possible, is still a virtuous thing. The idea that we should make choices with our sexuality that take into account responsible behavior is still a virtuous and good thing. And I say that despite my own personal history, just in case you're wondering, which has not always been about making the best choices. The idea that we as a society should not be promoting single parenthood is a good thing to protect the future. And how do we know that these things are good? Because for millennia, for thousands of years, human being prospered by exercising self-restraint and accepting responsibility, by depending on self and family, by not depending on government largesse, except when you had to. So what I'm suggesting here is a mindset shift. If humanity, not just America, but humanity is going to continue to evolve, it is time to put a check on some of these now, since the sexual revolution took place, to take a different look at our own responsibilities, what we want for the future, and especially our relationship with the government in terms of dependence. That's how I think over the long term we protect our future. James Golden, Snerdley, 800-848-9222. We're going to take some calls when we get back. Yeah. Frank and Nancy. This was one of the few father-daughter duets that went to number one. In fact, they're the only one in the UK. There's only been one. Maybe States too. 1967. Tomorrow is the anniversary of this song going to number one. Frank Sinatra and his daughter Nancy. Something Stupid. 1967. James Golden, Snerdley, 800-848-9222. Your call's coming up. Don't go away.
I mean this with every fiber of respect in my body. As a conservative woman, I do not want conservatives making my coffee. I quite literally want a liberal making my coffee.
What?
That is, we all have places in this world. Liberals are great at making coffee, okay? And I walked into a coffee shop today, and it was literally a blue-haired girl with piercings all over. And this is the best latte I've ever had. God is good. God is real. We all have a place on this earth. It's a beautiful thing, really. So anyways, yeah. Peace and blessings.
Hey, look, I'm not going to get anybody mad at a good latte or a good cup of coffee. But I got news for this young lady. Conservatives make great coffee, too. Tomorrow is the birthday of Bill Conti, the American composer who composed this one. You know what it is, the theme from Rocky, Gonna Fly Now. 1977, this went to number one. James Golden and Snerdley, let's head to the telephones as promised. Catch up with Tom calling in from Poughkeepsie. How are you, Tom?
Hello there. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. What's on your mind this morning?
Well, my theme was accountability, but I wanted to first say I have been listening to you every Saturday for many years now, and I think you're excellent. And you have a great program, a great political and cultural, common sense point of view. You're very entertaining, so I look forward to listening to your program up here in the Hudson Valley every Saturday.
Thank you.
You do a great job. My theme was accountability on all issues, from China to personal responsibility to what's going on in New York State. The whole theme of accountability for our actions, either in the public sector, in the government realm, or in our own life, is something that we are all falling short of. I don't see enough accountability.
I don't know whether we, the people, are falling short of it. Certainly the government has fallen short of it. What we have learned through Doge, for instance, is that there has been no financial accountability. Open checkbook at the United States Treasury. Then you look at some of the things that there's a Christy Nome thing. It sounds like a PSA. We'll play it. Finally, do you know how long it has taken after 9/11? Almost a quarter century And we are still talking about Real ID. That's going to be going into effect. I have something with Kristi Noem announcing it, when it's going to start, right? But this took almost a quarter century. Where's the accountability there? So what you're talking about is a very interesting theme. It's very good. There has been no accountability. People have been talking about waste and fraud in government as long as I've been paying attention to government discussions. And yet this bureaucracy, this deep state infrastructure has been allowed to run rampant. That was on purpose. Because the amount of money that the American taxpayers have been paying that has been siphoned off to promote liberalism and liberal causes through these NGOs and through this fraud had to be known. There is no way that it was not known what was going on. These massive amounts of dollars. And now the energy is put on demeaning and Elon Musk in every way possible because it's being exposed. So, Tom, I completely agree with you. Thank you so much for your kind words. Thank you for calling. Elizabeth, you are up next. How are you, Elizabeth?
Very well. Thank you so much. I have to return to your very serious explanation of the problems in single-parent families, because if you look at communist countries, I've been to Russia a couple of times, there were several wonderful movies about the disillusion of the Russian family. That was deliberate to allow the government to take over the basic economic unit that you were talking about. I'm taking values and spiritual things out of the family that has 2 adults and some number of children. Even taking that out, it is an economic unit that works, and they wanted to deprive people of that so that they can be enslaved by a well-meaning or perhaps not so well-meaning government. Your statement about family is tremendous. I had another remark that was rather frivolous about yardsticks. I think it's a European, the China tariffs are a European strategy to help improve our education, because if we turn to the meter stick, there's 3 more inches, or maybe even 4, do my math.
Whoa. Well, Elizabeth, I'll just say this. A lot of guys would be happy with 3 more inches, but at that point, Elizabeth, thank you so much for the call. Hour number duo in the can. Hour number trio coming up, including our very own Princess Diana. Whatever you do, keep it right here. Do not go away. The Saturday morning vibe continues with me, Bo Snerdley. Thank you for being here. Welcome, my friends, to our number trio of the Saturday morning vibe. Good morning. Good morning. We learned last hour is rooted in racism, saying good morning. Yeah. Because people got tooken at night, and people mourned, the slaves mourned all night, and that's how they came up with good morning, to mock them. Yeah, amazing what American youth are being taught. You know, I got to give a quick special shout-out to my good friend Ed Shea, who I did a great podcast, Red Apple Media podcast, with on the Philadelphia music scene. He's such an amazing musician and dear friend. And this week, he sent me something out of the blue that I will just treasure for the rest of my life. A video shout-out to me from Johnny Mathis. You know, Johnny Mathis is retiring is coming up in May. And it was just so special. And so thank you, my good friend Ed Shea, for that. I've heard from our other good friend, my good friend Patrick Burns, who conductor supremo, and we have to have him on one day. But right now, ladies and gentlemen, the moment that we all have been waiting for.
It's time for Radio Royalty with James Golden and America's Princess of Policy, Princess Di.
Her Ness. Her Highness, she's the Ness of all things good, wonderful. Her analysis is spot on. And I will tell you something. If you missed the hour that Princess Diana spent with us last week, you should go back and review it. Red Apple Media Podcast. Astounding. And it puts in context everything that we are seeing this week, last week, And everything that the mainstream media is still missing about Donald Trump and the tariffs is Her Highness has it nailed. Her Highnessness is with us. Princess Diana, good morning, Your Majesty.
Well, thank you, Sir James. Wow, what an introduction. It's always wonderful to talk to you.
That analysis you did last week blew my mind, and it has become my working framework in looking at these tariffs and looking at what we're facing now. And again, today I opened up the program with the mainstream media approach to it. The Washington Post is, oh, look at all the pain that Donald Trump has caused to Americans. The New York Times is, oh, Donald Trump caved. G found his pain point. G, such a strong leader. And, oh, Donald Trump blinked. And Donald Trump this, Donald Trump that. And not a word from any of these mainstream outlets on the pain that China has inflicted on the entire world now for decades.
Well said. I agreed with every word that from your first hour, which was tremendous, outstanding. And it is just a continuation of how the media, the expert class, quote unquote, got everything wrong. They're still getting everything wrong, and they're going to continue to get everything wrong, and yet they will talk to each other about their wrong ideas on and on and on. We'll have to put up with it. But, just to recap, what we went through with the conventional wisdom since Trump campaigned, obviously, on tariffs. The first conventional wisdom was that Trump isn't going to really do that. He's just bluffing. And I heard that from the brilliant, financial advisors all over the place, that he was bluffing. And then on Liberation Day, which was a Wednesday, the 2nd of April, they couldn't believe it. They're like, oh, no, Trump did it, and it's way worse than anyone thought. He didn't run on this. And so then it became 1 week of the sky is falling from the 2nd of April until the 9th, one whole week. And then Trump basically put a 90-day pause on some of the tariffs he had on 100 and, so many countries. But he left on 10% tariff on the whole world, and then ultimately 145% tariffs on China. And that was then defined as Trump blinking. I mean, it's just like the most unbelievable ass backwards analysis, the absolute opposite of what actually happened. And so I just wanted to add to that event that we all saw, but the media lied about, to something else they're lying about, which I think is so interesting, James, is that Xi Jinping blinked. He absolutely blinked and this has been reported in like 9 different places, a little detail here and there, but I have put them all together. Xi is on a world panic tour now. Next week, he is traveling to Vietnam, Malaysia, and Cambodia, and he is having all kinds of panic meetings. He summoned Spain to Beijing. He is summoning the EU leaders to Beijing in July. And he is reaching out to Australia and India and all these other countries, desperate for a place to dump his product. And he is learning that you live by the sweatshop, you will die by the sweatshop. And no one is taking his calls. The EU is going to go to Beijing and talk to him, but everyone is saying no to Xi Jinping because he wants to have an alliance, anti-Trump tariff alliance, and no one is joining him. He is in a desperate search for friends because his country produces all the time. And they produce a lot of junk and a lot of dangerous things, as you have detailed. But now they have no place to send it because they cannot afford the tariffs that Trump has put on, 145%. So they're looking for elsewhere to dump their product, and no one is joining them. So Xi and the U.S. media is basically saying the U.S. is isolating itself with Trump's terrible tariff ideas. But the truth is they are beating a path to Trump's Oval Office on the phone calls. 75 countries already are trying to make the deal. They are ignoring Xi Jinping. Xi Jinping is in enormous trouble, and the most amazing evidence is that he's on this world tour. He's going to these countries that he's hoping to do side deals. Interestingly enough, though, Trump already outsmarted Xi Jinping in that the deals that he wants with these countries are going to preclude or not allow any third party. In other words, China will not be able to go through these other countries to come to America. So the isolation is China, and the desperation is China, and the blinking is China. And you're not going to hear that anywhere else because these little details of what Xi Jinping is actually doing, don't look what he says. Look what he's doing. He's calling, he's traveling, he's pleading. He's like, we got to stand up against Trump, and everyone is turning him down. So I just wanted to encourage people because we're in the middle of this psyop of the world media talking about how terrible everything is and that tariffs equal inflation, and that is causing some people to feel nervous about it. But as I said, we have this window of panic. The media is going to provide nothing but doom and gloom and sky is falling. And so they only have this short window until everything turns around, which is going to be in a few months, where they won't be able to lie anymore because this is going to work. So I just wanted to be encouraging. This is all wonderful. China is being isolated. The wall is being built around China and their lies and their evil doing, and America is going to stand strong.
Diana, this is great news. And I had mentioned, and because I read about the Australia turning Xi Jinping down, I had no idea that he was already in panic going to Nam, going to Malaysia, Spain. I know the EU, and you have Macron over in France who's mouthing off, but at the same time, you know, the relationship with the EU is changing and has to change as well. What Donald Trump is doing here is he really is resetting the American plate. And what China has done, and I just cannot stress this enough, Princess Diana, in my estimation, they have been conducting economic warfare against America and enriching themselves since their entry into the World Trade Organization. And it has been blatant warfare. We will steal your intellectual property. We will put out knockoff products for yours, not allow you in court to challenge it. We will send you defective medical. There are people who have died because of Chinese medical products that have been made with inferior standards that they have been using in American hospitals. They die. They have no recourse, or they're made seriously ill. The products that they have sent over, like the sheetrock thing that caused so many real estate collapses in the United States of America. The milk product pollution that went on. And that affected the world, by the way. There are a lot of world that won't use Chinese milk products because of the horrible pollution. You heard Rick Scott earlier talking about the fact that we import their garlic. We are the biggest importer of Chinese garlic. It's made in raw sewage. And they send it to America, and Americans consume it. This is, not to mention COVID, the biggest single biological weapon unleashed in the war, in the entire world, with no accountability. And so far, we've got the mainstream press focusing on their hatred of Donald Trump and trying to make Donald Trump the bad guy, and not one word about how China has behaved on the world stage ever since Bill Clinton and cronies let them into the World Trade Organization.
Absolutely. And one of the most amusing things, talk about the World Trade Organization, which China has exploited its position. This week, China begged the World Trade Organization to condemn Trump because of the intimidation that China was facing. And so that's the thing that I am finding so interesting. There's these little details, these little gems that you see in some of the coverage, but you have to put them all together to I no one is doing that, to realize that China is right now its back foot on defense, scrambling and trying to figure out the answer, and they don't have one because Xi does not have the ability to transform his economy overnight the way Trump has transformed the world economy.
Wow. Princess Di, hold on. James Golden, Snerdley here. Princess Di is with us. We are coming back. James Golden. Rolling Stones released this one. I'm looking for the date. 1971. Tomorrow's the anniversary of the release of Brown Sugar from the album Sticky Fingers. Sticky Fingers. James Golden, Snerdley, good morning. That's a racist term. We'll be back. Don't go away.
I'm really about to show y'all why we need to move out of America. Look at this. They're selling lion chops. They're taking exotic animals and cutting them up and putting them in our local grocery stores.
She saw some pork loins. Birthday today. Well, actually, it's tomorrow. Heavenly birthday. For one of the greatest bass players of all time, Louis Johnson. Brothers Johnson, this was their first big hit. Of course, they had been doing a lot of the background for Quincy, a lot of session work with Quincy Jones before then. Louis also played on Michael Jackson's Off the Wall, Thriller, Dangerous. That's him playing bass on Billie Jean. And, of course, our theme song is the Brothers Johnson. Heavenly birthday for Louis Johnson, who passed away in 2015. Princess Di is with us. Your Highness, Gretchen. Gretchen was at the White House. I saw headlines with the F word bleeped out of it. It was a bleeping disaster. It was this, and that headline was just more than one paper. It was a bunch of them. What happened with Gretchen at the White House?
Well, I was so grateful you flagged the New York Times story this morning because this puts it all in perspective, which is why I got such a kick out of it. The photo, the New York Times has this huge photo of Gretchen in the Oval Office literally hiding behind file folders. She is standing there under the portrait of George Washington, Jefferson, and the American greats. She's right in front of the fireplace, and she is standing up, clearly does not want to be seen, and she has these huge file folders in front of her face. You wouldn't know who she was unless the New York Times had a caption on who this was. But the backstory is very interesting, that the New York Times is reporting that after the inauguration, Whitmer wrote Trump a very nice letter, saying congratulations. She was glad that he mentioned the auto industry and wanted to see how they could work together. And she included her cell phone number and invited Mr. Trump to call her if she could be, and he helped him. And so she was invited to the Oval Office, to the White House, to discuss Air National Guard base funding, and there was an ice storm in Michigan. And so she was invited to talk to Trump, and she assumed one-on-one, without much publicity. And what I had first seen, which we had all seen, which was the video of her looking completely awkward. This wasn't the one hiding behind the file folders. It was, she just had this sickly grin on, and there was a video of she and Trump talking in the Oval Office about the invasive carp in the Great Lakes. But she looked like the Wicked Witch of the West who was had water thrown on her. I'm melting. You could just hear her. She didn't want the video being made. And so, that video went everywhere because it was so obvious that she wasn't handling it with any kind of confidence. And so the backstory is that Trump basically made a power play. He brought her into the Oval Office, in front of the cameras with the whole group, and made her stand there while he talked, as the New York Times described Trump's unending reality show, and talking about his lies about the, revenge against those who had done him wrong on the 2020 election, and she was forced to stand there. And so what basically happened, Trump knows that she's interested in running for president in 2020, the next 2028, and he ended her career because her own party cannot stand anybody groveling, and that's what she looked like she was doing, and so she's over.
Hysterical. The words at the left. The Democrats angry. This was an effing disaster. That was a headline in major newspapers. What an effing disaster. They angry. Princess Di, I want you to hold on. We're going to play our favorite game. Well, I'm going to play my favorite game with you, which is listening to some sound bites, some audio, and just having a quick comment from you on that audio. And then we're going to grab some calls. James Golden, a.k.a. Snerdley. It is a Saturday morning vibe. Good morning. Keep it right here. Don't you dare go away. Birthday tomorrow. For American singer, songwriter, and reverend Al Green. Yes, had an unfortunate incident with grits earlier on in his career. Carlos, you're looking at me very strange. He was with a young woman who got mad at him, took a pot of boiling grits. The grits were boiling. You make grits in boiling water. Anyway, threw them on him in the shower. He was in the shower. Took the hot grits and threw them all over Al Green. Ended up in the hospital. Very, very bad. But he survived. Born in 1946. This, of course, is big one. So many big ones. So he had so many number one songs. But this was the first of his number one songs. This album was amazing. It is amazing. Princess Di is with us. Your Highness, it's time. I just want your reaction. Let's start. Carlos, first one.
If there's 10 billion people on Earth and Elon Musk has $200 billion, can't he just give each person $1 billion? And here's the twist. He will still have $190 billion left over. Isn't that concerning?
Math class is hard. You pull her in the doll, you'd pull her little line, and then she would say, math class is hard, and that was so controversial in the 90s because people
Yes,
said,
I remember that.
Women are really good at math. Well, clearly not.
All right, up next, Princess Di.
If Trump declares martial law on April 20th, which is the rumor, we're in deep doo-doo. I'm terrified. This is absolutely terrifying. As a woman, as an American, is this The Handmaid's Tale? This martial law would surpass all police. How terrifying. Like, what do I need to do as a woman to prepare? Help me. Help me help others. I'm so freaking nervous. I hate him. I hate the orange clown.
Well, she asked the question, what should I do? Well, believe it or not, 4/20 is Easter. She should go to church.
Whoa! 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 Okay. Oh, I can see her standing up right now with that Those fingers in the side of the cross. That's the ones, yeah. Okay. Yeah, Diana, this panic is spreading all over social media that Donald Trump is going to declare martial law.
Yes. Well, did you see what he did? Interestingly enough, I think he might be playing with them a little bit, but he has sort of grabbed at the southern border. There is a Roosevelt, Teddy Roosevelt had sort of a 60-foot line of demarcation, which is federal-owned land. And he basically is putting the military there to take over that 60-foot spread at the border. And so I saw panic as a result of that, because that is considered by the left proof that martial law is starting. Except this is federal land already. This isn't private land. And so he is just basically shoring up the border security, and it's one of the allowed functions of that land. So there's nothing controversial about it except in their minds.
Okay, next up.
I'm getting real sick and tired of you white men, because you're all white men, and I guarantee you're Trump-supporting, MAGA, conservative white men coming out here saying that a marriage certificate is proof of citizenship under the SAVE Act. A marriage certificate is not proof of citizenship. It's proof of ownership, of you owning another woman. She changed her name so that she becomes your property, your name. A marriage certificate is proof of name change and ownership of property. It's a contractual ownership of property. Only a birth certificate or a passport, which has verified your birth certificate and gone through the process of that, can show proof of citizenship. And women that have gotten married and changed their name, like most of us have, cannot use a birth certificate because the name is not the same. The name is what is on our marriage certificate, which is just proof that you have ownership of her. It's not proof of citizenship.
Oh, my goodness. Hillary is out there spreading the same line of BS as well, that, somehow if you got married, you're not going to be able to prove because your name is different. None of that is true. Absolutely false. And so it's just the hysterics of the left. And that's all they have right now is, trying to gin up fear. This is the era, the PSYOP, the era of panic. But that window of panic will be closing very shortly.
Okay. Up next.
The deadline for registration under the Alien Registration Act is today. All foreign nationals present in the United States longer than 30 days must register with the federal government. Failure to comply with this is a crime, punishable by fines, imprisonment, or both. As President Trump and Secretary Noem have both said, if you register and you leave now, you choose to self-deport. You may have the opportunity to return later legally. But if not, you will be arrested, fined, deported, never to return to our country again. The Trump administration will continue to enforce our nation's immigration laws. We will not pick and choose which laws to enforce. We must know who is in our country for the safety and the security of our homeland and for all American citizens.
Did you know? Brilliant. Yeah, did you know that was coming? That deadline was there?
No, I hadn't heard anything about it until she announced it. And, it is basically a trap slamming shut because Trump is cutting off all avenues, all loopholes of what has been happening for decades, where the devaluation of American citizenship has happened with people, basically pouring in without any vetting whatsoever. And that era is over. And it is so wonderful to see. Now, of course, there's going to be some district judge somewhere by end of day who's going to throw sand in the gears, because that's the other tactic that's left to them. But it's only a temporary slowing down. It doesn't stop ultimately.
I wonder how they're going to stop this next one, because this is something. Go ahead.
Noem, the United States Secretary of Homeland Security. If you plan on traveling, we need your help to prevent delays and to prove your identity. Get a real ID. Starting May 7th, you will need a real ID to travel by air or to visit federal buildings in the United States. These IDs keep our country safe because they help prevent fraud and they enhance security. Please do your part to protect our country. Go today and don't delay. To learn more, go to dhs.gov/real-ID. Thank you.
Princess Diana, Real ID was supposed to be implemented. This was one of the measures that was passed after the terrorist attacks of 2001. It has taken until now for them to implement it. Do you expect this is going to go smoothly or what?
Smoothly. Absolutely smoothly, because actually states have been implementing it all along. I think that almost all 50 states have accomplished it. So I don't expect that there to be delays, except for people who haven't heard about it and haven't, gotten their new driver's license in the last few years. But this has been in process for years.
Okay. Now, next, Doug Schoen. I'm pre-leg.
Doug, you and I have been talking over a number of years. You saw the party going left with Hillary Clinton when she lost. Is it still doing that, and who's winning?
Well, it is still going left. I'd argue hard left. Bernie Sanders, AOC are indeed the leaders of the party. All we heard from them, and you saw it on the screen and you said it, Harris, is anti-Trump. No positive programs, certainly no centrist programs. And I would argue that my party is out of touch with the mainstream, with the ideas that elected Donald Trump. He is moving very quickly and very aggressively, sometimes a little further than perhaps the electorate would want. But my party just bashes and trashes. And with AOC and Bernie Sanders at the helm, I think we are only running on opposition to the Republicans. No ideas, no plans.
What say you, Princess Di? Doug Schoen.
Bingo. He absolutely is correct. Trump picked their pockets, the Democrat Party, on trade, on getting the working class to take a look at the Republican Party for the first time in a lot of their lives. And so the Democrats are left with 20% approval rating and very fringe issues that they are the hills that they're dying on, which is men and women's sports and, trans rights and all of that stuff, which is such a minuscule percentage of people who are caring about it or fighting for it, that they are destining themselves to basic extinction if they don't turn around. And I hope they don't.
Okay. One more. Well, actually, two more. I'm going to add one. Here's next.
The Speaker is rushing to the floor to pass a budget reconciliation to screw America by passing the biggest tax cut in history on the backs of the American people. WTF? Who's in charge?
Oh, no, tax cuts. What a week to start complaining about tax cuts as people are, looking at filling out their own tax forms and reading about the ridiculous waste, fraud, and abuse that has been going on for years. This is when you're going to complain about tax cuts? Okay, tone deaf.
As a congressman, Democrat Stephen Horsford from Nevada. All right, last one, a guy in Ohio. It's self-explanatory.
I just got news today that they're cracking down on diversity, equity, and inclusion within workplaces in Ohio. Our workplace was directly affected, and it was like someone took a knife and stabbed it in my heart, because the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee that I have been a part of for the last 4 years has been very, very important to me. And for those of you who want to call me a snowflake or liberal or say that I'm emotional, or I don't care. I don't care.
Okay. I'm not going to laugh at him. Learn to code.
Learn to code? Oh, my gosh. Wait a minute. Isn't that what Jen Psaki told people back when?
Thank you. That's what people were told in the real world whose jobs were destroyed by the Biden administration. Well, all you have to do is learn to code. And it was heartless, and so I'm just quoting them.
All right, Princess Diana. Thank you for not laughing at him, because we don't laugh at people.
No, we don't.
We don't laugh. Thank you. Princess Diana, always a pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us.
Always fun, James. Thank you so much.
Your phone call is coming up next. Oh, this is for Peebo. Yeah, I know. Birthday today, tomorrow, for Peebo Bryson. Peebo was amazing. His first album, Reaching for the Sky, was classic, and that introduced the world of Peebo Bryson. Of course, he did this duet in 1984 with Roberta Flack, the late Roberta Flack. Happy birthday today for Peebo Bryson. James Golden, Snerdley, America's Small Caffeinated Mom will be with us next week, we presume, we hope. Your calls are coming up next. Don't go away. '74 is the year. Tomorrow's the anniversary of Paul McCartney, going to number one with Wings. Band on the Run went to number one on the U.S. album charts. It was his third U.S. number one. It would sell 6 million copies worldwide. Band on the Run, Jet, the big singles.
James Golden, a.k.a. Bo Snerdley, presents Rapid Phones.
And Sandra has been waiting for ages. Sandra, how are you? Thank you for your patience. How are you?
Oh, fine, James. I wanted to say that your show today was very, very important to me, learning about China. I mean, I lost my mother, and I know that virus was man-made, and I know they did it. And I maybe would have had my mother with us tonight for Passover had China not done what they did. I hope that you talk about this a lot more. And then in the second part of your show with Princess Diana, you speak about the products being so inferior. I ask you, James, do we really need China at all? I mean, do we need them? Maybe I want to know. I don't think so.
This is what Donald Trump is raising. Look, and this is the reason why this is so important what Donald Trump is doing. This over-reliance on China, dependence on China, has been costly for the United States. Now, if they were to actually play ball fairly, in other words, meet the standards of manufacturing that are recognized as safe, if they would stop skirting the rules, stop the currency manipulation, stop the stealing, stop stealing intellectual property, and take responsibility for COVID, maybe they'd be a good trading partner. If they don't, what Donald Trump is saying is bring factories back here. Let's be self-reliant. And that, Sandra, is a great thing for America. There's going to be some pain in the transition, but overall it will be the best way forward for this country. Sandra, happy Passover. Thank you. Veronica in Bakersfield, California, you are up next.
Hello, Bo, my favorite guy.
Hi, Veronica.
I set my alarm just for you.
Thank you,
now,
sweetheart.
Bo, listen, we have gotten it all twisted. The reason why we are in this big mess today is because we have taken the emphasis off of the military, so to speak. We don't really care too much about it as a people, so to speak. You know, they don't have that respect that they used to have when they would come back and we would hail them as heroes and whatnot. And we put more emphasis on the social welfare of the Constitution. When it says that the military is supposed to provide the security of the people, that thing should be taxed without a problem. I'm sorry to say it, a thing. But but the welfare is to be promoted, and you don't have to pay taxes for that. All you have to do is open your big mouth and promote it. Donate your time. And these welfare programs are taking over. with all this money, and we're being taxed by this constantly.
It is welfare, it is entitlement programs, and at least if we cannot scale back the retirement programs, one of the things that Trump and Doge are doing is trying to drive the cost down through finally addressing the tremendous amount of waste. Veronica, you were so wonderful. Thank you for the call, and thank you for listening. We so appreciate you. Brian in Glen Cove, you're up next. Hello,
hey,
Brian.
How are you, my friend? First time, long time.
Thank you.
Let me say this real quick. Instead of good morning, I'll just say good early part of the day. How's that sound?
Thank you.
That was too funny what you were talking about. You like that, my friend?
I like it. Thank you much.
Things, if you don't mind. Good early part of the day. Two things real quick. One, at 7:40, I love that speech. You should tape it and send it out. It's how I felt for the last 30 years. You know, China is just like Trump. You know how Trump does what he says he wants to do? China's the same way. And when these politicians and us, we don't wake up to the fact that they say exactly what they're going to do, it's a no-brainer what we have to do. And one last thing, because I know there are other callers. Today is Record Store Day. And I'm down here in the village at Village Revival Records. I would love you to come down. I know you're a music junkie. One day we'll talk again. But it's Record Store Day. Come on down, my friend.
Thank you for the invitation, my friend. Happy Record Store Day to everybody in record stores that own record stores. They are wonderful places to be. Eddie in New York. We got about a minute. Eddie, you got to make it quick.
Okay, here it goes real quick. Education is the most important thing for self-reliance. While you're getting an education, develop a work ethic, get experience with a company, and grow. When you get enough money, you graduate, get a house. Buy it cheap, and years later, like I did, I bought a house at $100,000. It's worth $600,000 today. You have the chance to make yourself life self-reliant, not dependent on government. And I'm telling you, it is there if you work for it. Remember, the two most important things in life is education and your health. I love you, man. Take care.
Thank you. Love you. Right back. The Countess of Conspiracy is telling, would you please tell these people it is not just China? I said it, Countess. It is the United States help with COVID with this gain-of-function research. Walker, you've got 20 seconds, and I mean it because we got to go.
James, I just remember when there was the poisoned dog food being sent over here from China, and Rush said, what are the senior citizens going to eat now?
Well, that's not quite the story. That's what he said that in jest because it's a Patsy Schroeder joke. So I got to explain that one day. Anyway, we got to go. May God bless, protect each and every single one of you, your families, your loved ones. Love and gratitude, my friends, for your being here with me, allowing me to be with you. God willing, back next Saturday for the Saturday Morning Vibe. In the meantime, I bid you adieu. Bye.